Okay, hi everybody. There was a lot of interest in the conversation that I had with my daughter Rachalia yesterday about the Torah reading this week, which is Yayikra, all about the animal sacrifices. The book of Leviticus, it begins this week, and I was speaking to a lot of my Christian brothers and sisters, a lot of my Christian followers, about the idea of the blood of Jesus as a modern sacrifice, meaning ancient, but a modern belief that if you believe in the blood of Jesus, it'll atone for your sin. And our Christian brothers and sisters argue that without the animal sacrifice of the temple, there's no temple, there can be no atonement. So we have to believe in Jesus. And I repudiated that idea based on the Torah reading. That number one, Yayikra makes it clear that animal sacrifice only atones for unintentional sin. And number two, you don't even need animal sacrifice. You could bring flour. Okay. The reason why this is so relevant is not only that it's a Torah reading of the week, it's so relevant because a lot of people feel the coronavirus is because of sin. Baba, I'm seeing this all over the internet now. More and more religious leaders saying that the coronavirus is punishment.
Like who?
There was, on the Drudge Report today, there was this thing about a pastor who I believe knows President Trump or maybe close to President Trump, a prominent pastor who's saying that this is a punishment. I'm sure it's a minority opinion, but then I've seen rabbis say it. There was a rabbi in Israel say that the coronavirus is punishment for gay pride parades in Israel, home for homosexuality. Yes. That was early. That was like 3 weeks ago. Early. Can you imagine how quickly everything moves? That we considered 2 weeks ago early in the coronavirus. And then I have Christian friends who wrote to me today. The Book of Revelation predicted the coronavirus, and you haven't seen this. You don't think that's something a lot of people believe that when there's a global pandemic?
The news.
Okay, but you don't.
He's a news addict. So.
But you don't think that there's a lot.
I saw the one in Israel. I just don't take it seriously, but I guess I should probably give it more weight than I do.
But you don't think that there are people who look at a global pandemic and they say, oh, it has to be some kind of punishment?
We discussed this at our Shabbos table, remember?
Yeah, and
well, it got into the whole conversation about consequence and the difference in consequence and punishment, and we were disagreeing.
Well, do you think this is a consequence of something?
No.
Okay. Whoa. Okay.
No. No, I don't.
So what do you think?
I don't think anything. I think it's horrible. I just think it's horrible.
No, but you think that they're okay.
We were talking about punishment and consequence in terms of other things, and I don't believe in punishment. I don't believe in reward. Okay, I don't believe in punishment. That if you do like a sin, you're gonna get like whacked on the head. I do believe in consequence. If you talk badly about people, it's kind of like you said, like karma. I do believe it's going. You're bringing darkness into your life, and it'll affect you eventually. But
Okay, but so you're saying it's not God punishing the.
So it's always This always comes back to the same thing. We go back to this every time where I don't understand, or I feel like sometimes you're taking the easy route of explanation because the entire Torah is filled with punishment. So I don't understand how you reconcile the two.
So let me ask you outright: do you believe the coronavirus is a punishment for human sin?
No.
Okay, but you just said the Torah is all about.
I'm asking you.
Okay, so I would say it's a fair question. When the Bible specifically says that God is bringing about punishment because of a particular sin, that's revelation. That's divine revelation. And then you can say it. God himself says it. But when we sit here speculating, while innocent people are dying, and you know what? The people who are dying, they're the weakest, the most vulnerable. Their grandparents, just decent people who worked hard their whole life. I can't imagine what they did or what the world did.
Yeah.
What I said at the outset when this started was, look, if it hit Iran and Tehran, and if it hit because it's hit Iran pretty bad, but it only hit the upper echelons of that horrible terror government, then I can say, look, these people are getting it. Or if it hit the upper echelons of the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist government, who might be persecuting their people or throwing them arbitrarily into jail. Okay, so that God wants his people, his children, to be free. But if you look at what's happening here in the New York area, it's unbelievable. But because there are people who believe, I don't want to dwell on this too long, but I want to just complete the idea. So you think, but there are consequences to human action that is not about punishment for sin, but it's the outcome of what people do.
Yeah.
So what did we do?
I think there are things that are,
Like what?
I think
Losing
there
our
are
values?
things that are naturally dark, yes.
Okay.
Like corruption, or I just love the example about speaking badly about people. And you invite darkness into your life when you do that, and that's a consequence. Yeah.
Okay, so what is the darkness that we're bringing into our life? Bad values? like, I don't know, we're too materialistic, we're too focused on celebrities, Americans are not bad people. If anything, we might be into shopping or money, but we're compassionate people. But you would say that could be a consequence to the corruption of values?
1,000%. Look at this comment. I can't figure out what kind of rabbi you are. Don't criticize the rabbis in Israel. There's a lot of sin going on in the world.
People do believe
it.
You're right. I know that people believe that. I know that.
Gila, how can you can't play God? That's what I don't. That is why the prophets could say, point at something and say that is punishment because they were told by God. We can never play God. You're right. People do take this seriously.
No, here's someone. Okay, Gila. I'm not sure who Gila is, but Gila, you seriously are going to say that someone's grandfather, or grandmother, the coronavirus kills more men than women, who's on a respirator right now fighting for his life, or some young person, you're going to say that because there's like gay men or gay women walking around Israel, that some guy in New York is going to be punished? And my fear is that now that New Orleans is being hit so hard, Mardi Gras, they're saying the reason is the Mardi Gras. They're going to say the same thing. Oh, Mardi Gras was about corruption and sex and no values, and now God is like bringing down the hammer like Sodom and Gomorrah. And the problem with that, Bob, is A, we don't know the mind of God. B, it weaponizes religion. C, it makes religion it has no heart, it has no compassion. Even when people die, we're going to say, oh, you kind of deserved it. And finally, D, it takes sin out of all proportion. Let's say the people of Mardi Gras are having a good time. They don't deserve to die, right? God forbid. Let's say their values could be better. They don't deserve to die. God forbid. And if you said that God, the stock markets went down, people lost some money, they had to rethink their priorities and give more charity, okay, but this is way too severe. I wouldn't want it, even the other one I would reject, but this is way too severe. But Christians believe, our Christian brothers and sisters believe, and again, going back to the Parsha of the week, that Jesus does bring atonement, and that terrible things like Corona can happen if we don't have atonement, because there's nothing we can do to save ourselves. It is only God who can sacrifice his only son. And what I wrote here is that, and I want to continue the conversation from yesterday, for us Jews, that's like the idea of human sacrifice. I mean, if Jesus wants to sacrifice his life, willingly, or if God sacrifices his son to bring about atonement for humanity, how does that differ to the prohibition on human sacrifice, which was an ancient pagan ritual? The worst ancient pagan ritual. They would sacrifice their children. What's the whole thing about Molech? What was the prohibition on Molech? The Torah says that they would even sacrifice their own children to their gods. So yesterday when I said this, one of my Christian followers wrote and said, what about Abraham and Isaac, when God orders Abraham to sacrifice Isaac? Is that an endorsement of human sacrifice? Yeah, Kata? What do you think? Well, it seems to be, but God says not to sacrifice it. God says don't do it. Well, then you can ask, well, why does God ask him in the first place? And what kind of test?
First place.
Okay.
Abby Erickson just said that.
Where?
I like to involve the commenters on Instagram.
Oh.
He did.
That God did what? He did tell.
He did. He told Yitzchak to do that.
Okay, so Margaret just wrote, Shmuley, don't confuse Christian and Catholic. Okay, but the common idea, the most important idea in Christianity is the death of Christ bringing about salvation. And for us Jews, that does, and even Mike Brown wrote to me last night after my thing, and he wants to, we're going to do one of these discussions. But for us Jews, it's an act of human sacrifice. So you feel it when God tells Avram to bring Yitzchak as a sacrifice?
It's the most uncomfortable part of the entire Torah, for sure.
Well, the Kedah. What's uncomfortable about it?
What do you mean?
What's uncomfortable about it? Here.
Judaism came about because God wasn't known in the world. Abraham was like the first Hasidic shliach. He projected God's law into the world and like shook the world and said there's a God and there are rules that we have to follow that make us humane. And one of the things that people were doing at the time were sacrificing their children, and it's like ironic that Hashem would ask him to do the one thing that he like found God because of. Like that was his catalyst to find God.
I mean, the main thing he did was reject this pagan human sacrifice idea. Is that right? The main thing was reject the pagan human sacrifice thing, right? And then God switches the tables on him and says, "Oh, I actually want you to bring your own son as a sacrifice."
Yeah. There may be a difference in human sacrifice and God deciding to sacrifice some of us. I didn't say that. Someone said that.
Where did someone say that?
On Instagram.
Okay.
That's a great question.
Is it?
I don't know. I mean, I do know, but it's confusing.
Well, you know, we discussed this countless times, and that there is this, what some people see as a sacrilegious thought, which is that Avram was supposed to say, "No, I won't sacrifice my son." In other words, the Torah says that he fulfilled the test by being prepared to sacrifice his son until God said, "No, I actually don't want this, and never again, no human sacrifice." Which is why we reject the idea of Jesus as the Paschal Lamb. That it can't be a human. The Paschal Lamb was a lamb. It wasn't a human. It's not a Paschal human. But maybe Abraham should have said to God, "What? You told me that this is an abomination. That it's an abomination." By the way, Baba, let's bring it to modern relevance. The whole question as to whether or not we should reopen the economy now. Some people are saying, look, we have to sacrifice some of the elderly who are more exposed to the virus in order to reopen the planes, the airports, and hotels, cruise ships. That's a worthwhile sacrifice. That you can't destroy the whole country over the most vulnerable. Even President Trump said that, look, there are people who die in automobile accidents every day. We don't ban driving. Is that the idea of human sacrifice? That we should be prepared to sacrifice some of the elderly? Because that's what Governor Cuomo then said. Governor Cuomo then said, "My mother's not expendable. Don't tell me I should sacrifice my mom in order to reopen the markets." What's your opinion on that? Should we let them live above everything?
Yeah.
And then other people would say, "But what about making a living?"
So I don't know. I really don't follow the news right now, so I don't know. I don't totally comprehend.
What do you mean you don't follow the news?
I can't.
What do you like, living in like a cocoon
literally
somewhere?
living in a cocoon, yes.
You are not literally living in a cocoon. You're not a butterfly.
I don't know the repercussions of the economy being down. I don't know.
No, but it's a fair question as to whether we should sacrifice
what do you think?
the elderly. I think we can't. I think we cannot sacrifice them. I understand that we have to find the balance, and people making a living. Listen, I have to support the family. Thank God. I know what people are thinking about, and money, paying bills never leaves my mind. My responsibilities, and yet when you see the degree of suffering, no, it's hard. It's a tough one, but it gets to the core of this idea of sacrifice. Look, the whole Torah reading this week, Yayikra, beginning of the book of Leviticus, it's so interesting because it's so foreign. Every year we read it, and it's so bizarre, the idea of sacrifice. Because modern men and women don't want to do any sacrifice. They don't want to give up anything. Having it all is the new thing. Like, for a woman, right? You Bobby, you're very popular on social media. You can have it all. And then when someone comes along and you got to sacrifice something.
Never.
Right. And now this is the first time. Now we come back to reading. Every week we read a different Torah portion. Now we're back to reading the book of Leviticus about sacrifices, and it becomes all so relevant. We're suddenly having to sacrifice so much. Look, right now, if you choose not to go out because you don't want to affect anyone, you're making sacrifices, right?
Yeah.
If you choose to be homebound because you don't want to affect someone.
Someone said if the elderly stay quarantined, we're not sacrificing them.
Yeah, but look at those words even. If the elderly stay quarantined, we're not sacrificing them. But even the idea of sacrificing them, again, I say respectfully to my Christian brothers and sisters, the moment we open the door to any kind of human sacrifice, that sacrifice of a person brings about redemption. But what did I always say to you guys when you grew up, when we studied Torah together, the whole family? I would always say that the main idea in Christianity is that someone has to die for humanity to be redeemed. And the main idea in Judaism is, no, we have to abolish death from the earth. We have to challenge death and push it away. We don't need, so ultimately to sacrifice it, we don't have to sacrifice human lives. Is that true? Do we have to, do you understand what I mean?
No, we don't. Yes, I do.
Okay, do you think that your generation is prepared to, like all the people they showed, like bumming around the beaches of Miami where I grew up, beginning of coronavirus, and people said these young people, they don't understand anything about sacrifice. They're just like so selfish, and they think that they're Superman and invincible. And what did you think about all that?
I think that we don't understand the pain that people are going through because we're not in danger.
First of all, young people can be in danger,
Well, yeah, but
but not to the same degree.
definitely not the same. I don't think
So
that
why?
we're
So
in a
why?
state of fear.
So why can young people not understand it? Like, why? What's changed?
No, I'm just saying. Literally, we're not as in danger. We're not in danger like older people are.
So because of that, you think
I
that,
think that
so young people you think are self-indulged?
selfish.
Self-indulged? Do you believe that?
Younger people, we have less. I see it in myself all the time. Yeah, for sure. We don't have the responsibilities older people have. We don't have the bodily issues older people have. For sure.
So 70 years ago, the last time America and the world faced a crisis this severe, I think, had to be the Second World War. The Vietnam War, the Korean War, 9/11, none of it was this kind of threat that we're seeing. They were terrible things, don't get me wrong, but they were not. But back then, it was young people who fought that war. In the Second World War, who defeated Hitler? It was 22-year-olds, right? In Israel, who fights all the wars? 22-year-olds. Maybe we need to create some kind of like national. I've always said you're out of the shot here. Maybe we have to create some kind of, national service, like what Chabad does.
Yeah.
I was sent to
Selflessness.
Australia. Yeah, selflessness.
Yeah, you gave us chores growing up.
I did give you guys chores.
You gave
You
us
still remember that?
chores. Yes, I'll never forget it.
I had
We had
like
a whole list
chart.
in our kitchen. We had a massive chart with like 9 different names, since there's 9 of us, and all of us had chores. I had to collect the branches from the grass outside.
How old were you?
I was like 10 to like 13. I had to collect the branches.
But don't you think that was good?
But I hated it at the time, but it definitely taught you really taught us responsibility, for sure. Even though
Why did I stop?
Well,
Why did I stop? You know why? Because it actually takes a lot to discipline kids. It's so much easier just to give in. Well, who just waved
no,
to us?
nothing. Mommy was at the door.
Oh. Okay. Baba, you just did a video. When's it coming out? What's it about?
As soon as we're done.
What's it about?
It's about it's part of the Thirsty Souls book club, and I read this book called Brideshead Revisited, and it made me so sad because it's actually a very relevant topic, because all of the characters end up like descending into like adultery or drug abuse or drinking problems, alcohol, or some kind of escape to numb their pain because they cannot address their issues with their family. So
The whole family
they all
disintegrates,
just
and
they all just hate themselves so much, and the author must have really
Self-loathing.
not liked himself, because it was too powerful to not have been relevant to his life.
There's no great author that isn't
Yeah.
like, really
Yeah,
in trouble
yeah.
in some way.
So
No,
we
that's not-
attacked
that's not
self-loathing
too
through the
general.
lens of Judaism.
So you're going to talk about that. You think young people are afflicted with a lot of self-loathing? You think that's why they try to escape? Is that what the
It's almost like you can't really, whatever. I don't know.
You can't what?
I was gonna say, like, I'm thinking a lot about, like, even I feel like when you try to do good things, there's always some kind of like darkness that tacks on to what you're doing. Like, I don't know. Whatever.
But now's a good time to try to address that darkness.
Yeah.
Because people feeling very vulnerable, they're feeling very honest.
Mm-hmm.
We can have much more honest conversations now because we're like in disbelief. We just can't believe what's going on. Okay, all of you stay safe. I want to thank Rachalea for everything she does for Thirsty Souls and the conversations she has with me and the Torah we study together. Right across from us, this is my office in our house. We have like a little yeshiva now.
I know, we do. Oh, to Iria, then the username is called the Thirsty Souls, and we do like a monthly book club. So.
Oh, you do?
I mean, not a monthly,
Why
like
not
I do
part of
some
like
kind of
the
book
Thirsty
club.
Souls book club? Why wasn't Rabbi Shmuley's books ever chosen as any of the books for the? Okay, God bless you guys. Take care and be safe, and God keep you safe. God keep you very safe. Blessings to all of you, and please continue to pray for my father. Those of you who've been so kind, but pray for my father, Yoav Ben Eshrat, Boteach, Yoav Ben Eshrat Boteach.